going to pronounce his last name for you when he talks. But we're doing the seminar today, and Ellen with the Option Group, she'll say a few words too. She's our sponsor today, so the nice breakfast and everything. And this is Barbara has had to go off and do some things, but this is an amazing facility. So if you have any, but a loved one, parent, a friend over 55, this is just the place to be. I mean, Stacy and I already talked for a little bit. Because it's just beautiful. But look at our website. We've got so many fun things coming out. We've got June 17th, USA Lacrosse is our game day. So that's really fun. June 23rd at High Tops is Flamingo. And that is in conjunction with the Starboard Society. So that's kind of their event, but we're helping them promote it. That'll be fun. We've got an event, 2 more events in July. So just take a look at the website, sign up. We have really fun stuff coming up. All of our stuff too, we have sponsorship opportunities and partnership opportunities. So if you're ever interested in partnering with us, or you have somebody that might want to partner with us, let us know. We're starting something really exciting. You might have seen it on the newsletters. We're doing a Pen Pal membership. And we are getting ready to launch that, and it's just a way for you all to feel a little bit more aligned with Ink and Numbers, get some discounts on events, be able to come to more events, and just kind of be part of our little community, even though you don't have to be, but you can be a pen pal. What else? I think it's really not our show, it's the Option Group. Ellen can say a little bit, and then we'll have Dr. David do his thing. So thank you.
So excited to hear about this. Thanks for coming.
Hi, welcome. I'm Ellen Platt with the Option Group. We're right down here on McCormick Road here in Hunt Valley. We provide case management and advocacy services. So we work with families that are struggling with a loved one who maybe has dementia or a catastrophic injury or maybe even a special need once they age out of the public school system. All those supports go away. So the families are trying to figure out what's the next chapter going to look like. How can we keep them safe, independent as they possibly can be, and kind of live their best life? So we know Brightview well, and we're really thankful that they're allowing us to use the space. I have Danielle Policio, who's our clinical supervisor in the back. Good morning. And then Noel White, who's also with us, our token male. But anyway, we love to, help families just navigate longevity, whatever that looks like, because it's really complicated to understand. So we have information outside there. I'm just happy you're all here. Feel free to grab any of us if you have questions. And I'll give it to Dr. Rajabali.
She says your lessons here.
Cheers, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, good morning, everyone. How are we doing today? That's right. Wow. Okay. Thank you so much, Ink and Numbers, Stacy and Lisa. Really appreciate the opportunity. I have to say this is something I've always been trying to do for a while. I speak all over the city. Some of you may have heard my presentation in the past. How am I coming across right now? Is my voice okay? You hear me properly?
It's too high.
It's too high. It always happens. There's always one class when there's always that person. Always. I can tell I'm going to have a lot of fun with this class. I've always wanted to speak to ladies, especially. I'll just say a few things about myself and why this is so important, what we're trying to do. Baltimore City is #1 in the country, as you know, and Prince George's County is #2 for dementia. A lot of it's, a large proportion are women, twice as much, in some cases more than that. So, and I feel that's not to say that you all in that category, but I feel that midlife area is really where we need to focus on, midlife women, because it's the things that you're doing or not doing now that will show up in the next 10, 20, 30 years. And if you haven't figured those things out at this point, the risks are so much higher. And I feel that these are some of the simplest things you can possibly do. It's a tragedy, quite frankly, that you're not being told these things. So again, it's an honor. Thank you for the opportunity. I also want to say a big thank you to Ellen for what she's doing and what she's been able to accomplish. You would not expect her to be out there hustling and networking the way she does. And she does it. I'm like, wow, why did you just go buy an island, right? Just gonna retire and enjoy the tequilas and all that. And she still does that. And so I'm just amazing, great friend. She's introduced me and connected me with so many people. And took the risk really of not really knowing me well, but she just went ahead and introduced me to some of the right people. So Helen, thank you so much. God bless you. I appreciate you. All right, so I guess Hunt Valley too, right? Big thank you to them. All right, so here's what we'll be talking about. I do talk fast, so like I said, if you feel you didn't hear what I said, please let me. I'll get back to it. How much time do I have?
40 minutes.
About 40 minutes. Okay, so 10, not 45. Then after that, questions?
Yeah.
Or are the questions included?
No, you can,
No.
and then if
Yeah,
somebody
if
needs
we-
to leave, it can.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. So basically, I like to say at the beginning a summary of what I'll be talking about, and just in case somebody has to leave. And what we found out is that if you want to prevent dementia, if you want to keep your brain healthy and strong into your 90s and beyond, there are 3 things you've got to know. Got it, and they're right there. Know what harms your brain, and know how to avoid it. Know what helps your brain, and know how to embrace it. And then number 3, keep track of your numbers. That's the summary of everything. Everywhere I speak, it all comes down to these 3 things. Obviously, today we're talking about women, so these will change in your case, depending on your age, your race, your sex, your occupation, and all those things. All those things I feel need to be taken into account, because sometimes when we hear people talk about dementia and brain health, it's really kind of cookie cutter, right? Everybody just exercise more, eat healthy, whatever that means, sleep better, have less stress, have good mental health. It means nothing, quite frankly, in my opinion. All right, so medical disclaimer, this is not to replace your doctor's care and attention. Don't come at me. Please. I've enough trouble. But quite frankly, the truth is, most doctors are just not trained in certain areas, especially when it comes to women's health and the brain and dementia. We'll get into that some more, but that's the sad truth. I had to leave. People don't know this, but I left medicine for over 10 years. I left clinical practice for over 10 years, and I now practice. And I have most of my patients are virtual around the world. But I left out of, I guess, frustration, and I was disillusioned. I wasn't satisfied, and so I had to, in a roundabout way, I came back into medicine. But that's after I learned many of the things that I'm going to be sharing with you today. Okay, so how many of you has? I see this a lot, so I'm going to assume a few of you. How many of you have had a loved one, or you're living with a loved one who has dementia? Wow. Wow. A lot more than I thought. So my heart goes out to you, and I know it's one of the hardest things. The hardest things to imagine. I have not experienced that personally. I know my grandmother is about 100 years old. We don't really have it in my family. My mother, my mother had it. I mean, it seems like she was going in that direction, but I put a stop to it. I mean, it would ruin my reputation if she had dementia. I don't care about her. It's my reputation was what was at stake here. So we found a way to fix it. So basically, I treat dementia. I treat memory challenges. I treat the whole gamut really, all the way from autism all the way to Alzheimer's disease. We do. The thing that's special about my practice is that we do not use medications at all. We leave that to other doctors. We use nutrients and what are known as nutraceuticals. Does anybody know what that means? Okay, so pharmaceuticals, nutrient supplements. Nutraceuticals are supplements that act like drugs, so they're highly concentrated, more bioavailable, more effective in working and repairing, helping the body repair itself. It's a new field. Like I said, I left medicine for 10 years. It was when I found out about this that I came back into medicine. It's been very rewarding. So how did I get to start doing this? I've had a practice and a charity now in Nigeria, where I'm from, if you haven't figured that out. Most people think I'm from Baltimore. I was born and raised in Baltimore City. Nobody does. Nobody thinks that. Okay, so it's frozen again, but okay, good. So what we did, my practice, we decided, and looking back now, I think was one of the best decisions we ever made. We decided that one day of the week we would devote it exclusively to the poor, the indigent, those parents who had nothing except maybe transportation fare, and we would treat their kids with brain damage. So cerebral palsy, autism, like I said, seizure disorders, Down syndrome, a whole bunch of different things. We just decided we're just going to help. And obviously they didn't have access to treatments, they didn't have access to places like Johns Hopkins. No one's going to do an MRI scan on anybody, right? Over there, there was nothing. We couldn't test, we couldn't do anything. So the only thing we figured we could do was to help focus on something, the safest thing, and the safest and most effective. And that's how we came across supplements. We learned that the right nutrients in the right dose, at the right amount, at the right time, can slowly help the brain recover itself. It's like giving the brain the tools and the resources it needs to fix itself. And so in the process, we became very versed in it. I would travel back and forth from Nigeria to the US, came to Baltimore a lot, just to learn from people and other experts who are in the field. So that's how we learned, that's how we grew. I mean, we still have outreaches where people come, and now sickle cell disease, and basically the things we learned treating kids was what acted as the foundation for what we're doing with adults now. Because when people saw how successful we were with the kids with brain damage, people started coming to us with adults with strokes and dementia and so on. And basically we applied the same principles we had learned treating kids with dementia, treating kids with autism. We applied that to our adults. And over time we figured out what to do and how to do it. So I can tell you right now, there's almost, in my experience, there's almost no such thing as dementia that cannot be reversed. There's almost nothing like that. I mean, it would have to be extremely advanced for us not to have some kind of impact on it, because we're talking about the potential of the brain and body to fix itself. And too much of the time, we tend to downplay that potential, and we think and part of it obviously is from us as doctors. We kind of set the bar really low and say there's nothing you can do. All right, and I gotta tell you right now, with the way things are going here and around the world, the current approach to dementia is not going to get us there. I mean, we're going to be overwhelmed. Luckily, in the United States, you've got all these social services, you've got a lot of money, you can take care of all these things. But in other countries, like where I'm from, these people only have their families to take care of them. And so we've got to figure out a better way to help, one, help prevent dementia. Number two, when it starts or when it's advanced, we've got to find a way to help them to some degree reverse the damage that's being done. Does that kind of make sense? Okay. Here we go again. I mean, this thing was working perfectly before that.
Just slow.
It's a little slow. Okay, so I'm just going to move on from this. But these are just pictures. We have an outreach coming again next in 2 weeks' time. So we always try to buy, these are cheap medications, cheap substances like zinc and magnesium and other things. I gotta tell you, they make a huge difference in the lives of these kids. So I've got a lot of awards here because of the work we're doing. One of them is because we were on Baltimore Magazine's 2024 edition, or Game Changers edition, because of the work that we've been doing in the Black community, teaching Black people about brain health and dementia. And Blacks are twice as bad than whites. And I just feel that, like I said, you've got to address different categories of people at the point of their need within their context. So I guess my advantage is that I worked, one, with kids, so we understood what works from the ground up. And number two is that we worked in a very poor environment, so we had nothing. We had to figure things out. And that's the advantage I would see over a neurologist who has been exposed to the best technology and the best tests and all that, but that's what they rely on. You take those best neurologists and you ship them and translocate them into places like Rwanda and Nigeria, they probably would not be able to do anything because of the things they would have to rely on to fix these problems. But I can, because of what I had to learn as a result of helping these kids. And what we've learned is that You cannot fix a brain problem without addressing the other organs and the other systems. Does that make sense? So we're focused on, in neurology, for the most part, we're focusing on the problem, the brain itself, and then let's fix that hyperactivity, let's fix that memory loss and all that. I gotta tell you, the reason the brain fails in many cases is because the other organs that support the brain also fail. So I had to learn to be an expert in hormonal health, gut health, digestive system health, brain support, all these other areas if I was going to be successful. So and that's one of the reasons why I kept on traveling back and forth, because we had to learn all these, how, like the immune system again is huge. The effect of the immune system on the brain is massive. And if you don't understand that, you're going to fail. So these are the 4 principles I want to share with you. Dementia is preventable, it is reversible. If it's going to work, you're going to have to play a huge role in it yourself. So your brain is in your hands, and everything around you will tell you that this is not true. And I'm telling you that it is true. So you understand strong, right? And resist anything to the contrary. Your brain is in your hands. All right, so we have 2 parts. Part 1 is basically understanding what dementia is. Part 2 is how this applies to ladies. So I'm speaking really fast because I'm like, I have a lot of slides to go through. So let's do a crash course in dementia. What is, I hope this is the right one. What is Alzheimer's disease? First of all, you want to understand what dementia is, because Alzheimer's disease is a part of dementia. And dementia is a problem. There are about 4 things: memory, thinking or cognition, behavior, mood disorders, and then the ability to perform tasks, so some kind of physical ability that depends on the brain. You do not have to have memory loss to have dementia. I have patients who have normal memory, but they still have dementia. So it's a brain failure to some degree or the other. Obviously, memory is what everybody thinks about, and that's what stands out, but I'm just here to tell you that it is not the main cause. So dementia is an umbrella term. There are about 100 different kinds of dementia. All right, so everybody here thinks about Alzheimer's disease because that's the one that gets the most attention, but it's not the only kind. It's about 60 to 70%, but even that is changing. And I've seen that most Alzheimer's disease are not pure Alzheimer's disease. They are basically, they call them mixed dementia. So there's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. These, what you're looking at now, are about there are about 5 or 6 actually irreversible, quote unquote, dementias. So those are the ones that you can't do anything about. But like I said, there are over 100 different kinds of dementia. So these are the four or five that are difficult, that are irreversible. I just say difficult because like I said, there's a lot you can do. Maybe not reverse it 100%, but you can significantly improve it. So Alzheimer's disease, let me give you the official definition. It's a sort of dementia. It's a degenerative dementia that is caused by the appearance of amyloid plaques. Anybody heard about those? Right, so these are proteins that suddenly appear in the brain, and the theory is that those proteins begin to appear and then they multiply like a cancer, and they shut down the synapses in the brain, and eventually the patient dies. That's what Alzheimer's disease is. It is irreversible, it is progressive, there is nothing you can do about it. Maybe we can just make your loved one more comfortable, chaperone them as they go to the grave, but there's nothing you can do. That's the dogma now. All right, so that's the official line. I'm going to give you my definition based on what I've done and what a lot of other doctors and MDs here and around the world are doing. All right. So Alzheimer's disease is your brain saying enough, and your brain is now shutting itself down. I'll say it again. Alzheimer's disease is your brain or that person's brain. I'm from a very superstitious society. So when I say you, I don't mean you, okay? I'm not talking about somebody else's brain, right? Not you or me. It's the person's brain, it's saying enough, and it is shutting itself down. Now, why does it do that? We're going to explain that in a minute. So, quick story. two Marys, Mary A and Mary B. Mary A had a difficult childhood, foster home to foster home, got into drugs and alcohol, eventually got married, had postpartum depression after each child, so it was very severe. Eventually one of her three children had autism, so it was a toil just taking care of that child. She got very depressed, she resorted to drugs and alcohol. She slipped one day, she broke her head, lots of pain, lots of discomforts. Alright? She eventually developed hypertension and diabetes, which weren't well controlled. Patient B, Mary B. Mary B was born to a loving family, had a lot of fun growing up, married her high school sweethearts. They've lived together for about 30, 40 years, and then made good money, had no issues whatsoever. Lots of social support, and both her and her husband are pillars in society. Question, which of the two is more likely to have dementia, which would be the one on the right? Is more likely to have the brain on the right when they turn 65, which is like the cutoff mark for dementia. Mary A or Mary B? Mary A. All right, anybody think Mary B? Two people. Why? I mean, I'm curious.
Just the way that, I just think that, first, I just think she would probably have to be, I think A, seeing doctors more, might be able to, get some help. B.
If the doctors know what they're talking about,
Right.
they're doing.
And B, nothing in your scenario suggests that she had any health issues. That's kind of my thinking.
So you think, A or B?
B.
B is more likely to have dementia,
Mhm.
even though she didn't have health issues. Okay, how about you?
Yeah, I think that dementia happens to lots of normal,
People.
perfectly well-off people, and there aren't really any signs, and then all of a sudden, there start to be signs that later in life.
Yeah.
And so, and I don't think that all the other stuff is necessarily the leader up to dementia.
The other stuff being like
What, Mary A.
interesting. Anybody else?
What about diet? Wouldn't, if Mary B had a horrible diet, ate a lot of sugar and didn't have
Sure, that could be a
Good
point.
diet.
So you're going with B. Are you going with B?
I mean, my gut is
Yeah.
going with B because I feel like that's where you're leading. You're trying to shock us.
Yeah.
It is not a trick question, promise. All right, everybody, you got to take a stand. Mary A, hands up. Wow. Okay. Mary B. Okay, fewer. So fewer. I got to tell you, folks, and I see this all the time. And this is part of the problem. Most people are simply not unaware of what causes dementia, and therefore they don't know what to do about it. It was really a layup. Is it layup or tee up? It's trying to get it. It's a lot to take in. I gotta tell you.
Tee
I've
up
been
is
here 5
golf.
years. What's that?
Tee up is golf,
It's golf.
right?
So layup is when you set.
Basketball.
That's basketball. That's when you set the person up and it's like, you got it. This is
Oh,
it.
you
Get the ball.
It means if you miss it, you're done for, right? They will never forgive you in your team. It's so easy, right? That's what I was referring to. So it was a layup. It was a layup. And basically, of course, it's Mary A because Mary A has had more attacks on her brain. Yes, I get your arguments that, because some people say because Mary B hadn't really gone through any serious problems, so she hadn't developed the resilience. And that's a good point, but I gotta tell you, for every 10 people who go through stressful events, maybe 2 of them actually do come out stronger. Most people just get overwhelmed by it. So yeah, it's more a case. The more attacks you have, and this is what I was trying to allude to at the beginning, the greater, if you remember the first slide I showed, the greater the attacks your brain has had over time, the higher the likelihood of having dementia. Same thing, if your defenses are, and your body has a lot of defenses to protect the brain. If those defenses are weak, are not able to absorb these attacks, it's most likely, and this could be genetic, there could be genetic reasons for that as well. And then number 3 is that if they did not, that's why I mentioned hypertension and diabetes, which are huge contributors to dementia. If they're not well controlled, and the doctor does not suspect when they're treating you, they don't suspect that, they don't look for it, and they don't treat it aggressively, hypertension and diabetes, it could continue to linger and fester, and over the decades could result in dementia. So the bottom line is that as a result, people get dementia as a result of the attacks. And I love this definition by the Alzheimer's Association. It is a degenerative brain disease that is caused by complex brain changes following cell damage. That's the key right there. And the attacks will cause cell damage. So let's break this down a little bit, shall we? So this is the diagram that I had my guys, actually, it was Susan who did this for me. Susan at Berman Macaulay, my diagrams were so horrific that she kind of like took it upon herself to kind of change them. I'm so glad she did. All right, so the question is, so there are 2 obvious things that I see. What is causing the damage? In other words, what leads to 1? And then 2, how does damage lead to brain changes that result in dementia? I feel there are a few presumptive leaps that were not accounted for. So what's causing the damage? So I came up with an outline called Dementia Study. Doesn't anybody heard of that? Okay. So I've become a bit of a celebrity for that. I'm just kidding. I'm not, but anyway, I wanted to find a way to make it all conceptualize all of them into one framework, right? So can anybody see any patterns here? There you go. That took a lot of work, I promise you. At some points, I had to really kind of finagle something. Like, this has to be an eye, you know. Anyway, so anything stand out to you? And just what stands out to you?
They're all negative.
Oh, negative. Yes, they are negative. I mean, is there any that you can relate to, for instance, or maybe your loved one is going through? These are some of the things in the background that contribute. It's usually never just one thing. It's usually a combination of things. So like in Mary A's case, you see a couple of things. She had illnesses, diabetes, hypertension. She had some trauma. She was stressed. So that would probably cause insomnia. It would cause immune functions. She had some imbalances because of stress. Stress does cause hormonal imbalances, which we'll get to in a minute. And yeah, so a few of these things. Insults after she had postpartum depression. So trauma. That's more like a trauma. What is trauma? Injuries. So trauma would be other injuries. Trauma could be physical injuries. So when I'm talking to a mixed crowd, I talk about Mike A and Mike B. Mike A went into the war and he had PTSD, had brain damage and all that. But they all kind of fit. You see what I'm trying to say? So there's trauma, there's physical trauma, there's emotional, psychological trauma. This is like kind of the framework. So I actually have a book, and it's available. If you're interested, let us know. But it's also an ebook and it's also a physical copy that we are expecting from the publisher. So some questions have answered. So some questions have been answered. We now know some of the things that cause the damage. But how does the damage lead to the complex brain changes? So a quick overview of the brain. Your brain handles a lot of different things, obviously. It's the most complex piece of bioelectric machinery known in the universe. It does a lot of things. As you're listening to me, you're taking in words, my voice, you're converting it into symbols that your brain understands, and you're comparing it with things that you've learned from the past, and blah, 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 blah. At the very same time, you're digesting, you're breathing, your brain is handling all the internal processes. It takes a lot of energy, about 20% of all the energy that your body produces. And the brain also takes up 20% of all the glucose your body produces. And when it's working hard, can go up to about 25%. Even in your sleep, your brain doesn't rest. So it takes a lot of energy, okay? And your brain needs a lot of things, everything from oxygen and water and fluids and all those things, but it also needs a lot of social engagement, which I love. That's why I love what Inca Numbers is doing, bringing ladies together. It loves novelty, it loves travel, it loves good food, and so on and so forth. All these things contribute. If it's not getting what it needs or what it must have, it will begin to falter. And as you can see a picture of a battery that is almost out. And many times that's kind of like what happens over the decades. The brain's ability to produce energy just continues to dwindle and dwindle and dwindle. And so when that happens, you have memory problems. Even if you don't have dementia, you have memory problems. You may have buildup of plaques in the tau tangles. So again, I said at the beginning that Alzheimer's disease is because of the buildup of tau tangles. That's the line. But I can tell you this, there are lots of people who have poor sleep, who have all kinds of issues, who do not have dementia and maybe will never get dementia, but they do have a buildup because the brain is not doing what it should do. And what it should do is to clear your body or your brain, it should clear itself, of these tau tangles and proteins. So the key to dementia is what? Energize the brain, for one, and of course avoid the damage and things like that. So, come on. All right, the complex brain changes. So what are the complex brain changes? And this is a busy slide, don't have to worry about this and all that. But what happens is that over time, your brain decides to start, when it's not making enough energy or when it's having problems, it begins to triage. It decides, okay, we don't have enough energy, so we're going to apportion energy to where it is most needed. Or we're going to take away from. So it looks like a bit of an emergency here. Any questions? I mean, if you just trying to make up for the time, just in case. Keep talking.
Is the plaque and the tangles more of a genetic, like is it a genetic predisposition to that, or nope, it's just from all that?
There's always a genetic predisposition to a lot of things. At most that's about 5%. So a lot of it has to do with lifestyle, diet, and so on. Okay. All right, so thank you for that. All right, so as I was saying, your brain triages, tries to select what is important and what is not important. I have to tell you, and I've made, Tina, remember that joke? I've made this joke in a couple of places, but I say, okay, what is more important to your brain? Your marriage, your anniversary, remembering the anniversary, or remembering when to breathe. And the first time I said it, it wasn't meant to be a joke because I was like, I was just naive, quite frankly. I didn't know I was going to get in trouble for asking that question. Like a massive crowd, audience, big audience. Where was that again?
It's Estates and Trust, Baltimore County Estate Plan.
Yes, so you were there too. You remember that?
Yeah.
Honestly, it wasn't a joke, but it turned out to be a huge, because I asked a question and the whole crowd was quiet. And I thought maybe they didn't understand my accent, so I'm like, okay, I tried it again. And I looked up, and then I saw the men shifting very uncomfortably in their seats. Now the women were looking at the men, and it's kind of like what I used to see in the ICU, like a death stare. Right? And I was like, what have I done? And then finally the guy in front, one of the organizers, was like, and then it hit me. I was like, oh, got it. Okay. So anyway, funny things, I went to a Nigerian or black church and I asked them the same question. And they were like, you think we were stupid or something? Of course the brain has to remember how to breathe. I was like, okay. So I learned a lesson that put me in good stead for the rest of my life in the US. It's not every American that's crazy. Maybe just the white ones. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I still get my check. All right. So what it does is that, likewise, the brain selects. It says, okay, it now focuses on survival, and therefore it takes away from the memory centers. It basically begins to draw back and prune itself, because the memory centers, the higher cognition areas, the parts that make us most human, those are the parts that take the most energy, and the brain cannot afford that, and so it begins to pull back from those areas. That's really what's happening in dementia. that's just the damage that has happened over the years. When it comes to a certain point, when the brain says enough, like we said earlier. All right, so we filled in the blanks, I hope. All right, and so this is when we come to the anatomy of a disaster. I call it the anatomy of a disaster. I call it the disaster not just because Alzheimer's disease is a disaster for many homes and many people, but the fact that it isn't, well, these things I've just said aren't acknowledged, and therefore doctors are not treating it like it should be treated. And so many people are just slipping through the cracks and eventually getting dementia when they shouldn't, quite frankly. To me, that's a disaster. The third thing that makes it a disaster is that it's happening in the greatest country on the planet. And it's happening to too many people. In my opinion, this is the best country, bar none. There isn't a close second, and it's unfortunate that these things are happening. All right, so this is just a quick explanation. You can understand the top part, right? The top part is insulin. These are the dirty dozen, and what happens is that this is happening over time. So there's damage. The brain tries to repair itself. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. Then you add medications and treatments and antidepressant, all these medications can have negative effects on the brain, even though they may make you feel better. And then there's further damage. So it's a vicious cycle. Like I said, this takes decades. Eventually, there's what is known as mild cognitive impairment, which means, everybody know what that means. Basically, they're not functioning. Clearly, there's something wrong, but the person can still perform their daily tasks. That's about 50% when the brain is not able to produce up to 50% of the energy it needs. If nothing is done, and usually nothing gets done, the doctor says, come back next year when we can treat you. If it becomes dementia, then we're going to treat you. So if you have memory problems and all that, and this is what blows my mind, I shouldn't be saying that, but this is what blows it, because I'm like, you can't, there isn't a medication or treatment for a person who is otherwise healthy but has memory problems. There is no medication for that. Are you kidding me? That's like the easiest thing to treat. That's like our bread and butter. It is almost nothing more easier than just treating the memory problems. And yet, there are people going around, maybe some in this room, who have memory problems, and their doctor has nothing to do for them. That's crazy. All right, so when it's down to about 40%, that's 60% depletion. That's really what dementia is all about, and that's you see the brain shrinking. You can lose that. You can get down to about 30%. You can lose up to about 30% of your brain mass as a result of dementia. Again, because the brain is the one shrinking, it's pulling back. Okay, so I kind of explained that. So I hope this has made sense to you. We know the numbers of people, so it's really important that we get this right, because in the final analysis is what you do for yourself that will protect you against it. I'm very concerned because these numbers are only going to get worse, and among African Americans, it's going to triple. These are the three categories that I'm very concerned about: veterans, women, and blacks, because they all have twice the rate of dementia as the rest of the population. And because I actually belong to two of these groups, it's very important to me that we address it. And if you're wondering which groups I'm talking about, I didn't declare my pronouns, so you might be wondering. All right, so the big three, I do get in trouble for that too. So some you can see the obvious reasons. Blacks, cardiovascular disease, big issue amongst us. We are the kings and queens, hypertension, diabetes, amongst other things. And we now know these cardiovascular diseases form a basis for a lot of dementias. Women, some of these are here: menopause, mental health concerns, nutrient deficiencies. We're going to get into that. Veterans, PTSD, toxin exposure. So that is that, I hope. And okay, so that's another factor. Number one in the UK among women. Number one in Australia among women. Is number two altogether, but number one in UK. Number one in UK and Australia. It's number 5 in the US. All right, so why is it so bad among women? I have this acronym I use. It's called the Women's Diet. I'm writing a book on it. We're almost finishing on it. This is basically an acronym. There are about 15 to 18 reasons. Obviously, we don't have enough time to address that, So the ones highlighted are the ones I will probably touch on a little bit. So let's talk about menopause. Does anybody know why menopause is such an issue? One of the issues, yes ma'am?
I was gonna guess, just hormone changes?
Correct. And why are hormone changes important?
So I'm guessing like cortisol, things like that affect how your digestion, digestion's a big part of.
To some degree, yeah. But it affects the brain. So but these hormone changes. So with menopause in your 40s or perimenopause, there's this imbalance. You start dropping levels of estrogen. Estrogen is probably one of the most, if not the most important hormone for the protection and the health of your brain. Absolutely critical. For some women that drop is precipitous. And for other women, it's just very distressing. But it's not just about estrogen. It's also about the other hormones like, what's your name? What's your name?
Julie.
Julie. Like what Julie's mentioned, she mentioned cortisol. There are other hormones like progesterone, testosterone, thyroid hormones. These are all crucial to brain health and brain energy. And I want to zero in on brain energy levels because, so you see, so this is, on the bottom line here is the years, so 0 to 100. At 20 is that's when peak form for males and females. And so you have the highest level of energy that's being produced by the brain. And when I say energy, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about basically the things that your brain needs to run itself. But when it gets to in the 40s, you can see with the males, the blue, it declines. It's a slow decline, but with women, there's almost a precipitous drop. Some cultures and some races more than others. And it eventually gets down to about 60 or so. You can see it's still about 50%. And like we said, 50% is the cutoff mark. All right, so that's the precipitous drop. Estrogen is important for brain energy production. So are the thyroid hormones, so are the cortisol and everything. So that those drops can have a huge effect. But it's not just the brain. I'm just going to skip the slide here. It's not just the brain. The estrogen is important for a whole host of bodily processes. And like we mentioned at the beginning, your brain relies on several other organs and systems to work well. And estrogen influences all those organs and systems. So it's not just the brain, like I said, that is affected during menopause. Your bones are affected, your muscles are affected, your heart, your cardiovascular system is affected, and all of these help to support the brain. So it's a global problem when estrogen is lost. So it's really important, really important. So this is what happens. So you see osteoporosis is more likely, bones and joints and all that. And that's why it's so important that, and I see some younger people here, it's so important that you begin to know these things so you can start taking the right steps and start right actions before you get to this point. But for those of you who are already past that stage, there's a heck of a lot that you could still do to strengthen your brain and body. A lot. Obviously, one of them would be getting the right person who can help with the right doctor who can help you balance your hormones. That would be a great place to start. I find out there are not too many people who can do that, which is shocking enough. I think it's 1 in 5 that actually OB/GYNs that are actually trained in this field. So so what I do is I when I hear about someone, I reach out to them if they're in Baltimore and just get to know them and all that. So for my clients, I can refer and say, okay, you need this, get to know these people. So, but it's good to know, it's good to have someone to check your hormones. Another big thing is muscle mass. Women start off life with lower muscle mass than men. We now know that muscle health is crucial, absolutely crucial to brain health. And we begin to lose muscle mass as women do more than men do. So I recommend, I talk a lot to seniors, got to get those muscles going. And Julie on my, this is Julie on the left, and that's her mother, Janine. So I was talking about this to a women's group, and in Tulsa, Janine walks up to me. She had asked questions about that. She walks up to me. She's in her 80s. So Janine, she does this, and she's like, "Feel that." And I did. And I gotta tell you, I don't remember what else we talked about afterwards. All I said was, yes ma'am, and no ma'am, I'm not gonna mess with you. I mean, those guns were something else. So she was doing the right thing. Muscles training is so important. All right, let's skip a few things. Come on, move it. There's a lot of nutrient deficiencies that affect women more. Part of it is due to the periods, like you lose iron. I am not saying anybody should supplement iron. That's another story entirely. But please do not supplement with iron. And please do not supplement with calcium. That can cause more harm than good. So there are more safer ways to get your calcium and iron stores. Another big thing you're all lacking more than men are is vitamin D. Vitamin D has become the wonder supplement. It's like the Voltron, the protector of the brain. And the Alzheimer's Association did a recent study showing that those who took supplements, not diets, not exercise, those who took supplements had a 40% protection, lower risk of getting dementia. For women, it was as high as 50%. You can easily have 50% reduction in risk factors if your vitamin D levels are optimal. And the range is 30 to 100. 30 to 100. Most doctors will say you're okay with 27, 28. That is just not correct. I would say the closer you are to 100, the better it is for you. All right, so all right, let's wrap this thing up, all right? So, like we said, I treat, I use medications. Among the things that we try to offer, so I realize that 45 minutes is like nothing, right? So, this is just to highlight a few things. So we've created an online library. It's a basic subscription where you can access all these videos, all these talks, our slides, books, and so on. The KYM stands for Keeping Your Marbles, which is my signature presentation. I would love to do workshops if those of you have maybe connected to HR at your companies, where we can go really immerse ourselves and really go in depth into teaching these things, answering your questions and all that. Because in the final analysis, you need to know how this applies to your specific context. It can't be done in 45 minutes. And of course, I do private brain health coaching. I address, I have clients whose loved ones have dementia, and we can help them nurse their brains back to health. That takes time, takes effort and all that. Also, I think very important for all of you here, if you are not on a brain protection program, like a witness protection program, everyone should be on something that they're doing on a daily basis that specifically protects their brains. It's a combination of things, including sleep and exercise. But we have to go into, for again, your age, your sex, your health, your context matters. So we do that. So you do need a health coach, in my opinion. Everybody needs to have some kind of, we can just deal with you for about 4 to 6 weeks and really help to address and really answer your questions and really help you lock some things down for the foreseeable future, so you can know for sure that 80% at least I'm covered. So this includes, like I said, we have an online library. Number one, we have an online library where you have access. So you have the course includes access to that for as long as you stay in the course. We have the 1 hour a week virtual group discussions. So it's either Tuesdays or Thursdays. Then I have a one-on-one with you once a week too, just to make sure that we are working on that plan. And then you have access, 24-hour access to text, emails, phone calls at my discretion. I think it's really important. I mean, I can say take vitamin D, I can say take choline and all that, but the brands matter. The brands matter. There's a lot of scams out there, a lot of charlatans. Not everything works the way it should work. So, and we've had, like I said, I've treated thousands of children and adults with brain disorders. We know what works. We know what brands work, and that's important. Also, like I said, we also we have networks and connections with healthcare providers who know what they're doing. So we hope to refer and connect them. I'll connect you to them and them to you. So with that, I'm just going to say, did I make it? Oh, a little over. So thank you so much for your time today. I think you're welcome. Okay. what I do now. Questions, all right, okay, questions?
Well, I keep hearing about like early onset.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
65 years old is the cutoff mark for dementia.
Okay.
Anything before that is termed early onset dementia.
Same causes, same,
Yeah, usually if it starts earlier than 65, it's usually, there might be some genetic
okay,
component to it. But like I said, it's still, it just means that that person needs more work. But the fact that something is genetic, and I get this all the time, even when I was treating kids with autism, they're like, how can you treat a kid with autism? Isn't it genetic? And I'm like, yeah, it's genetic, but the body still obeys the laws of life. It still obeys certain laws, and if you address those laws, you can improve, you can definitely change it. The problem is that people just look at it from the outside and see it's genetic, you can't do anything about it. Let's just manage the case. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
I saw when you were, on like kind of the nutraceutical page, when you mentioned amino acids, and I know that the peptide therapy is very popular right now.
Yep.
I mean, what are your thoughts on, obviously the ones linked to weight loss are approved, but the ones that are linked to brain clarity and just overall wellness, what do you think of that kind of therapy?
So, I gotta tell you, I haven't looked into it as much because obviously it's still a little hazy. It requires medical attention, and it requires knowing the doses to use and all that. Like I said, I'm the kind of person who just wants to deal with the safest possible means. Started with kids. I started my career in this area with kids. I prefer to use the tried and true. And many of these people who are on these peptides and all that have not dealt with the most basic needs that their brains and bodies need. So I want to start with, I prefer that you start with having the right foundation first. And usually if you fix your foundation, I mean, maybe something as simple as magnesium or potassium that needs to be fixed. So if you get those right first, then we can talk about peptides and amino acids. So I'm sorry, I don't really have much experience.
No, I was just curious what your
Okay.
thoughts were.
I mean, I'm seeing some amazing results with those things. But again, they require the attention of a medical person to really do the tests and check things out and all that. It's really good. Anybody else?
I don't know.
Yes, ma'am.
So I feel that society now is more conscious of their health, taking more supplements, like exercise is exploding, working out's exploding. So if those are good factors to ward off damage to the brain, why is the dementia rate going up so drastically when I feel like more people have access to that and are, taking care of themselves better? So is like our environment really contributing to that?
Great question. Love it. Well, one is that, and that's why it comes down to that third thing I said, that they're not, people are not getting prompt treatment. Another corollary to that is that people are not knowing their numbers. So exercise, sleep, and all that, everybody knows that, right? The truth is that there's more to the story than that, and most people don't realize that there is more to the story than that. So those people who exercise and they eat right. Eating right does not mean that you're getting the nutrients that your brain needs. I'm sorry to say that. What's in your food today is not the same as what it was 30 years ago. Plus the fact that there are added things like pesticides, hormones, antibiotics, and all those things that can throw your body, especially ladies, can throw the balance in your body off completely, and can cause a lot of havoc down the line. So just doing the quote-unquote right things is not enough. You gotta know the specific things that protect your brain. And since you mentioned this, Baltimore's number one. One of the reasons I feel Baltimore's number one, I don't know if you know, for dementia, I don't know if you know this, but Baltimore is also number one for asthma.
Wow.
This is the asthma capital of the country. Yay. All these wonderful things, right? So what that tells me is that I do understand the history here. You've got a lot of industry, steelworks, metalworks. a lot of toxins that are still here over the decades. And so in cities where there's a lot of pollution, there's going to be a lot of asthma. And in cities where there's a lot of pollution, there's going to be a lot of dementia. Because toxins affect the brain.
So where should we move?
Come to Nigeria.
Is it, true that the Mediterranean area has low, dementia?
I think that's a factor. Yes, I think that's a factor. I mean, the sunlight is one. The beautiful air. Come back. The Knicks. Who's with the Knicks and who's with the Spurs?
Spurs, yeah.
Spurs. Okay.
Spurs.
All right. Spurs. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Wembaya? What's
Yeah. Wendy.
Wemby.
That's what they call him.
Cool,
Wendy.
cool guy. I like it.
Yeah, me too.
All right. So
Short.
he's short, right?
Kidding.
Super short. Yeah. Well, like 7'7"?
7'4".
7'4", okay. Yeah.
How regularly are you recommending that people get their blood work done to check their hormones?
I would say once a year. Once a year would be a good thing. I mean, if you're in maybe 20s or 30s, maybe not, but definitely when you're close to 40, definitely. So I think there's something else passed around. This is for people if you're interested in more information about the book or about the course, the cohorts. We're probably going to start one next week with a new cohort. So just put in your information. Let me know you're interested. Put a note there that you're interested. Then we'll get back to you on that.
Is all the information on your website?
Not all the information. There is some information on our website. Then information is scattered on social media and other places.
I mean, in regards to what you offer, the courses and stuff.
It is not there right now.
Okay.
I might have to address that.
We'll be sharing the list with the doctor, so if there's anything that you want to email or certainly, what you can offer.
Okay.
It's fine, or we can do it for you, so whatever.
Okay. Okay, appreciate it.
So you'll get it, yes.
Okay, appreciate it. Okay, with that, thank you very much.
Thank
God
you.
bless
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Hi.
And the clipboard is being sent around,
Okay.
so you can get some additional information and sign up for the documentation. Yeah, we do.
If you have
Yeah.
so I'm doing blood draws and all that.
Okay, and maybe you can still go to the library.
They're like, I know, I was really comfortable there, I'm like, I know, I should have passed them out, because it's a little chilly. Good.
Yeah, I mean,
Here are the different strategies. Different part, the ins, the outs, whatever. You can kind of make it but I'm sure there's some long yourself, once you know it's like it is. I don't know it's not just healthy.
but you were having symptoms, right?
Well, I do better, but the food